Good morning, everybody, and welcome. Thank you for registering for today's webinar and for joining us. It's all about diversity, equity, and inclusion in hospitality. It's 10 a.m. It's Tuesday, the 6th of August, 2024. My name is Jane Pendlebury. I'm the CEO of HOSPA, the Hospitality Professionals Association, and I'm so pleased to be joined by Dorothea Jones, who has quite a story to tell and has recently set up her own business, Inclusivation. We're due to be chatting for around 30 minutes with 15 minutes for questions at the end. So please do ask questions throughout using the Q&A option, which is probably at the bottom of your screen. And if there's not enough time to answer all the queries, then we will get back to you afterwards. But we've got a lot to cover today, so I'm going to dive straight in. Dorothea, tell us a bit about yourself.
Hi, everybody. I'm Dorothea Jones, and thanks for the wonderful introduction, Jane. And I'm delighted to be here on this Tuesday morning. I hope people have brought a coffee or a friend or a client along as well for the webinar. And I'm really pleased to be working with HOSPA. And thank you for everyone that's registered as well that may not see this live. So we're really grateful for that. Just a bit of background on me. Yes, I came into hospitality by accident. I think many people may know that. But I grew up in Northwest London. I grew up on a council estate, and I was the first in my family to go to university. And, I completed a social studies degree. I worked in youth and community work for a while. Got 3 children. I'm married, and I completed an MA degree in violence against women and children as well. So that's my sort of bit of background. But then I worked at the UK's longest anti-racist charity, longest running anti-racist charity, and part of the Catch project, which is the Communities Against Hate from the Mayor of London. And then I became the first woman co-director there and led on race and religious hate crime. I volunteered for Women UK, and I was the only woman in a team of 4 headhunted to look at the Institute of Contemporary Arts for a gender and race audit. So I think that's really a bit about me.
Yeah, as I said, she's got quite a story to tell. I've had some amazing conversations with Dorothea over the years. So Dorothea, what made you set up your own business in this very important area of DEIB? I didn't use the B at the beginning. You go.
It's belonging, but some people just say diversity, equity, inclusion, but we all want to get to the place of belonging. I think I have always been interested in sort of justice and, justice for people and equality and people being treated equally. And I've always had a penchant for that, really. And I think DEI, I'm going to cut off the B here, is often misunderstood. I think it really is. I think people are worried about it. I think people feel vulnerable when talking about it. I think it can be quite polarizing as well. And I think I wanted to look at it from a different angle, because I think we work in silos, particularly in hospitality. I think we often work in silos. It's a fantastic industry. It's a vibrant industry, it employs so many, and it makes so many changes. And I think when I talk about silos, I'm going to give you an example. Pride we had, which is amazing. Lots of businesses took part, that was in June. Disability Pride has just gone in July. And we're currently celebrating South Asian History Month, which ends on the 17th of August. So there's lots of stuff going on. For me, I wanted to bring something that encompasses all experiences without dilution. So that was more about understanding the DI space, and intersectionality was crucial for that. So it was looking at the person really from a holistic way. I think it was about really looking at it in a more comprehensive way, understanding how different aspects of a person's identity, whether it be their class, their race, their gender, their disability, sexuality, and more, intersect and impact their experiences. So that's really what I wanted to do, and do that through sort of innovative software and special DEI strategies that improve business outcomes. So that was my reasoning.
Reason to do it. And obviously I haven't met anyone, which is why I wanted to do the webinar with you, who's so good at explaining the importance of DEI and the benefits of DEI. And as you say, the whole inclusivation, to use your word, that it's not a simple thing at all, is it? There's 9 protected characteristics as far as I understand it. And the benefits are far and wide.
Yes, there are 9 protected characteristics, and I think, they are age, and just in case people don't know, and I'll just sort of read them out: disability, gender, reassignment, marriage and civil partnership, pregnancy, and maternity, race, religion or belief, sex, and sexual orientation. So those are the 9 protected characteristics. So yeah, I think it's about, there are lots of benefits in diversity, equity, and inclusion, and I think it would be good to touch on some of those. What do you reckon, Jane?
Absolutely. Do you want me to start our first poll?
Yes, that would be great. Thank you.
Great. Let's just do the first one. So hopefully now on your screens, our visitors to this webinar today can see. Oh, have I put, is that the second one? Have I
Doesn't
just
matter. We can go with the second
we'll go
one.
with this one. We'll go with this one.
We'll just do
By
it anyway.
by 2030, so 6 years' time, what percentage of all adults will be over the age of 50 in the UK? So if you'd just like to put your votes on there, so ranging 40% getting a few votes, 60% getting a few. Oh, 50 now has got a vote. So I think people are aware it's not going to be as few as 30%. Right, I think people are still voting. We're still getting votes in. So I am going to be closing it soon. So any more, keep going. Oh, it's interesting. It's quite a battle. I don't know if you can see on the
Close.
screen
Yeah.
how it's coming in. But I think in interest of getting on with this webinar, I will end the poll now and share the results on the screen there. So hopefully you can all see those results on the screen. Can you see them, Dorothea?
No, but I'm going
Oh,
to, yeah. Right, so let's,
oh, how
yeah.
strange that you can't see them. Well, I'll read the results out. So we got no votes for 30%. 40 and 50% were both at 38%. So about a third, just over a third of the audience have said 40%, just over a third have said 50%. And then a quarter have said 60% of adults will be over the age of 50 by 2030. Oh, there we go.
Gosh, that was,
Yeah.
yes. Okay, I can see them now.
Okay. Oh, sorry, I've just taken them off the screen. So do you want to tell us a little bit more about that and what the actual figures are?
Yes, it is going to be 50% by 2030. So that means that we're going to be working for longer. We know that. We know the pension age is going to go up, and also we live longer. So that's a bonus as well, isn't it? We're going to live longer. I think they say that the first person that's going to live to 150 has already been born. Can you imagine that? So that's how much longer we're living. So it's really about making sure we have sort of, lack of age discrimination, I think, really within our institutions, because that's what we're not seeing really. Ageism is rising, so we need to really correct that. So
We need to try that.
compass.
And in our conversations previously, you have said there's masses of benefits to businesses opening their eyes to DEI. Can you talk us through potentially a few of those benefits?
Yeah, I think there are so many benefits. I think, really I'm going to talk about the human aspect first, because that's the most important thing, really. It's about sort of making sure that employees feel valued, and that clients feel valued, and customers feel valued, and also feel safe. I mean, we've seen what's been going on around our country at the moment, and all of the stuff that's going on, that sort of started off last Monday with the killing of those 3 beautiful girls, and that sort of movement, and how we're seeing real sort of polarization. So DEI is really important more now than ever, really, so to quell all of this and to bring people together. So I think it's about bringing people together, and it's also about promoting inclusivity. It helps reduce stress and anxiety. I think a lot of people don't know that. And also, if you support diversity, and it can alleviate feelings of isolation, discrimination, all of those sorts of things. Improve job satisfaction. That's another, area that we can look at. Sense of belonging, better physical and mental health. And I think if we're going to look, because we are looking at businesses after all, and I think people really want to know, what is the business impact? It has a tangible impact on sort of performance, market outreach, employee well-being, I've already said, and, finance as well, because there are correlations between financial performance and DEI. So I think McKinsey, if anybody knows anything about diversity, McKinsey will tell you that companies that have more culturally diverse teams have 36% more profits. And, if we're looking at gender, 25% more profits. So those are huge sort of margins, really. And it's also things like looking at innovation and creativity. You want to be ahead of the market, don't you? So, it's all of those things. And I think when we look at innovation and creativity, and also employee engagement and market reach. And I think when we could look at the second poll, actually, because if we're looking at innovation and creativity, Jane, I think the second poll would actually cover that.
Right. So this should have been the first one if I'd got it right. What percentage of women and men research a company's diversity and inclusion policies when deciding to accept a position? So when looking for a new job, do 54% of women and 35% of men look at diversity and inclusion policies, or is it 35, 45, or we've got, oh yeah, we haven't got, I think we have got various different ones there. I can see these votes coming in here, and yeah, people are voting quite quickly on this one. It's quite a diverse split here actually on what it is, but I will share those results. I'm going to end the poll now so that we can share those results. And hopefully that should come up on the screen for everybody, but I'm not sure it did last time. I'm going to just read through in case anybody can't see them. So the most popular answer by nearly half of the people watching this webinar today said it was 54% of women and 35% of men who would be keen enough to know somebody's diversity and inclusion policy when deciding to accept a new position. So that was by far the most popular answer. In fact, the popular ones seem to think that generally women were doing it more than men, because the least popular answer was 35% of women and 54% of men look at those options. So again, Dorothea, do you want to tell us what the actual facts are?
Well, it was very close, but it's the final one.
Oh, right. 54% of women and 45% of men.
Very, very close.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay. So interesting. It is interesting, isn't it? So and would you say, this is not a scripted question, so would you say hospitality as an industry is good compared to others? I think everybody's got a long way to go. Would you say that hospitality are ahead of the game, on track, or behind the game?
Oh my goodness. I think, hospitality mirrors society. I think if you're going to look at, say, public organizations, or, maybe our sort of beloved NHS, I think in some ways they may be ahead of the game, and, in compared to hospitality. And I think because we work in silos, and we have done for such a long time, I think that's where we're at, really. So, I mean, there are different ways that hospitality, they've got different, there are things that are unique things that hospitality has, within it, to make us sort of think, why do we have, what challenges do we have? I think really people are frightened, and I've said this at the beginning. I think there's a general lack of understanding, and I think when people don't understand, they feel like, not sure I really want to do this. I think there's a lack of an awareness as well, really, about the importance of DEI, and I think it's compliance led. People just want to comply with law, as opposed to looking at it, from a value led angle. And also, transient workforce. I think that's changing now, because some people are saying, yes, this is an amazing industry, and it is, and people stay for life. And, we're seeing that there are sort of major characters, and there are major benefits of working in hospitality, and it is a career. It's not just a job. And also, we aim to serve, we're customer centric. We focus on customers, we focus on clients, and sometimes that overshadows the internal DEI efforts within companies. And I think that's another thing that happens. And also, there's a lot of tradition within hospitality. So, we're deeply rooted in traditional practices and hierarchies that can resist change. And this can make it sometimes challenging to implement DEI and initiatives effectively. And also, we need more data research. There has been data that has been done by the University of Surrey, the University of West London, Be Inclusive, Hospitality Action, I know have done research as well, but there just needs to be more, I think, really. And also, I think I've said this earlier, a one-size-fits-all approach. We need to be looking nuanced experiences within hospitality and intersecting identities, instead of opting for a broad one size fits all.
Absolutely. And when I say current situation in the UK, I don't mean over the last 10 days, but we're looking at the bigger picture of the UK. What are the sort of common challenges and barriers to companies being better at DEI?
I think there are challenges within DI and there are opportunities for organisations. So there's a growing recognition of the importance of DI. So that's number one. But there are some obstacles for meeting progress, and I think that can be a bit of an issue. Some companies are just sort of looking to outsource stuff, so there's been a reduction in DI teams as opposed to that growth. And also we need a more intersectional approach. I'm going to keep sort of saying that because we all come with our different experiences, our different lived experiences, and different things that we are challenged by or privileged by. And also it's about leading organisations. Some of them are working to embed DEI, so that is happening as aspects of their operations. So it runs through their businesses like a stick of rock, from recruitment to talent development. And so that involves like creating sort of inclusive talent cycles and ensuring that DEI principles are intersectional and woven into the fabric. And I think that's how they're going to work, rather than being sort of a standalone thing. And it really has to come from the top. And you have to have that top-down approach. It has to be seen as tangible and very important for business. And I think, more and more, AI, that's something else people are thinking about, because obviously AI is taking over a little bit. And people are even saying that AI has biases. So there's, industries looking at that. But I think if we're going to look, the business impact, it's recognised as having a tangible impact on business performance. It really is. And I think that's what we need, and market reach and employee well-being. So that's where we are. But I think the UK is more ahead than some. And
Right.
that's yes.
Good. I like to hear it when we're good at something, because yes, you've shared facts and figures with me in our previous conversation about the correlation between how people with good DEI policies and actually living and breathing them, and then business performance. It makes a significant difference, doesn't it?
Yeah, it really does. And I think, companies with more diverse management, I think this is from the Bolton Consulting Group, they have, 19% higher revenues and innovation. And I think all these stats, just add up to, DI being sort of important. And we're looking at Gen Z now. I think it's something like 56% will not join an organization if they don't see, meaningful and representative DEI within an organization. They just won't join. I think it's different, than people that entered into careers and stayed, with the same organization for ages and ages. It just doesn't happen anymore. So I think that's something that's, and also we want to have, training costs a lot. And so we want to have, inclusive teams, and we want to keep our teams, don't we? And if we have a diverse team, and a diverse environment, that is likely to improve team performance, and that attracts and retains top talent. So that's what we need, really. And customers, I think that's important. Customers, diverse companies are better equipped to understand and meet the needs of a broad customer base. And we have a globalized economy now, and that's really important to know. And things are changing across the world, so very important to capture new markets.
And you said something there about it needing to come from the top, and which is true of almost anything, isn't it? Whether you're talking about, single-use plastics, whatever it is, it needs to come from the top and go right throughout the organization. On a day-to-day basis, though, if the individual employee within an organization is, for whatever reason, having a bit of a hard time, maybe some of those awful people that are out in the UK at the moment working within their environment, that employee support is clearly very important as well for the individual. So that will come from the top, but actually on a day-to-day basis, I guess we need to make sure that all the department heads or everybody is open to an understanding.
Yeah, I think that's really important, and I think for larger organisations, there are employee resource groups, but they are sort of generally set up by employees. But that should not be, at the detriment to them. If they don't want to set them up, they shouldn't have to, But they should be valued. So that's when employees come together and they talk about, inclusive workplace practices and organisations' missions and values, and they support and enhance career development. So it's all about that, and I think they help employees connect. So those things are going to be really important, especially following what's happened, over the last week, for people to be able to share their stories, their fears, and also things like, sort of mental health, really sort of specific mental health, for people, for individuals, because people have different life experiences. So you can't have a one size fits all, looking at sort of, mental health well-being. And also making sure that there are mentorship programs in place. And I think they can be reverse mentors. I learn as much from people that are way younger than me and as much as, it's better to have intergenerational working, intergenerational friendships as well. So all of those things sort of matter. And I think if people are finding it difficult at work, there needs to be, and it has to be value-led, and it has to be clear. Regular assessments to measure DI progress, and you have to start somewhere. I know companies are terrified of this, but, people, who are vulnerable and who are transparent, organisations, they're the ones that make the biggest leaps and bounds, because they say, right, okay, we don't really know what we're doing. We want to learn a bit about it. We don't want it stuffed down our throat, but we want to learn and see what we can sort of glean from this. And I think that's important. And also ongoing education and training, we need that within this space. But I think primarily to make sure that employees feel safe, that there's psychological safety at work. That's the most important thing of all, because once they do, they're going to work so much better.
Yes. So training throughout the organization is clearly crucial to success. Now that's where your business will help, I think. I think what I love about what you've done at Inclusivation is you're making it very approachable, very easy for anybody at any level in the organization, whatever their worries, fears, lack of knowledge. You're not somebody who's don't want to use the word preaching, but I can't think of a better one at the moment. You're very approachable. I remember one of the first times where we really spent time was when we were doing a project at the University of Surrey together. And I just remember being able to ask you questions that perhaps I hadn't been able to ask before, because I knew you would just answer me in a nice, clear way without I didn't feel judged at all, which is I think very important. And that's what you're going to be offering, isn't it, through your new business?
Yeah, we want people to learn more about this, and that's the aim, really. I mean, the aim, to be honest, is that we wouldn't need anybody in diversity, equity, and inclusion, and I'm talking myself out of a job here, but that is the aim, isn't it? We're such an equitable society that you don't need these initiatives, but at the moment we don't, and I think that's what it is really all about. It's about doing things collaboratively. So it's not. I think this is for me, that's why, for me, the word consultant I find difficult. I think practitioner is better. I like to work collaboratively with people. I've set up workshops, I've run workshops, but it's a collaboration, and you need that interaction for things to change. And you need that, honesty, and you need that safe space for people to be able to say what they're thinking, whether that be, they're scared. We don't want people to be scared, because we need this to move on. Otherwise, we're going to remain stuck, aren't we, and polarized. And that's not what it's about. It really is about making sure that everybody's voice is heard, and that we have some form of equity. Some people are disadvantaged, and we need to make sure that that doesn't continue to happen.
Absolutely. So everybody listening, do carry on putting some questions in the Q&A. We have had some comments in there, just saying how brilliant everything is and how they agree with what you're saying. But you also mentioned earlier legal legislation, law changes. Can you just give us a sort of overview of that so people can know where we are and what we can expect?
Yeah, I'm going to share my screen, I think, Jane. So watch out, people. This could be a technical difficulty, but you never know.
Let's
It
go
could
for
go
it.
perfectly well. So let's go. But yeah, I think it is, about looking. Right, let's do this. Now, is it going to go? Is it going to look on here? No. Why am I not getting on here, this PowerPoint? Right, share. Here we go. Let's go. Right. So for me, I think, right, I wanted to go backwards. So I'm going to go, okay. let's start again. Okay, so I'm going to go right back and okay, let's go back. Apologies for this, people. Right, let's look at law changes, because I think that's what some people want to be finding out what's happening. And this was revealed in the King's Speech, the very recent King's Speech. There are several law changes, and there are some that are still under debate or under discussion. So protection in pregnancy. So it's going to be unlawful to dismiss a woman who's had a baby for 6 months after she comes back to work. And I think, yeah, well done for that. Also, menopause plans, yes, larger employers, and I think that's at 250 and over. That hasn't been stated yet, but I think it's going to be that. We'll be required to have a documented menopause plan in place, and workplace rights. Flexible working will be the default. So that's a major one for all workers from day one, and requiring employers to accommodate this as far as is reasonable. Banning 0 hours contracts, because I think that's caused a lot of trouble. Banning fire and rehire, and making parental leave, sick pay and protection from day one, and also unfair dismissal available from day one as well. So that's quite interesting. But that's obviously subject to special rules and probationary periods. And also it's going to be mandatory for employers with more than 250 employees to monitor and report on ethnicity and disability pay. And that's going to be in line with what's happened with the gender sort of pay gap. And I think because we've got, sort of tribunals, and I think that's sort of increased, things like neurodiversity and sort of menopause claims have gone through the roof. They really have increased. And I think that probably, and protection in pregnancy as well. So they're looking at establishing the Fair Work Agency to strengthen the enforcement of workplace rights. So that's to combat delays that have been encountered, people having 2-year waits and so on. And also, this has not come into statute yet, but I think it's under discussion, possible extended time limits from 6 months on discrimination and harassment claims. So that's where we're at for that. So yeah, I'm going to stop sharing, but those are the new laws that are going to come into statute affecting sort of employment and equity, diversity and inclusion. So yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I've just got one comment on those, on the 0 hours contract, because I think I'm in a minority. I don't think they're all bad. There are certainly some people it works for really well, especially we had the example there of pregnancy and menopause, new mothers and things like that. Sometimes those 0 hours contracts can be really beneficial because it gives as much flexibility to the employee as it does to the employer. But it's the exploitative ones, and you hear some terrible stories about where you have to turn up at 7 o'clock every morning, and it's up to us whether we take you on for that day's work or not, and then you go home, and that's exploitative for sure. Now we are getting a few questions in, and we are heading towards the sort of half-hour bit that we were going to talk to. So the question that's come in firstly is about success stories. It's, do you have any examples of hospitality companies that you've seen do DEIB? They've added the B there. Well, have you got any examples of who we can look up to, who we can emulate?
I think there were so many, and they are doing different things, but they are doing, I'm going to reel them off. I think Be Inclusive, hospitality are doing amazing stuff, looking at race, and Blue Badge Access are doing really good stuff. Hospitality Action, you're looking at people that are not, finding it struggling, in hospitality, for sort of with mental health and finance. And Only a Pavement Away, getting people out of homelessness, really. And Kelly's Pause, looking at sort of mental health as well. And Springboard. So there are quite a lot of organisations, and also Mum and the Walk for Wellbeing, which is on the 13th of October. Everybody join up for that if they can. And also, I think the bigger organisations, PwC, are doing quite a lot of initiatives as well around hospitality. And also, not forgetting sort of UK hospitality who represent the industry and go in, and yourselves as well, Hospa, that are doing bits and pieces. But I think, for an overall thing, I'm not so sure. But if I'm looking at, individual companies, there are loads of people doing amazing stuff.
Yes. Okay. And another question here is, what is the definition of larger employers? I think you did touch on that in terms of having a documented menopause plan in place. I'm pleased to state that we've had one in place for a few years now. So well done, Mark. But the audience may be interested to know what the definition is.
I think for menopause, I think it's supposed to be 250, but I think it's a menopause is going to be from day one, and I think it could be for many organisations. That's not been they've not said exactly what yet, but yeah. But I think it's good to just have one in place. It's a very easy thing to do, to be honest.
There's but I do feel a bit sorry for employers, or HR departments must be run off their feet because there's so many policies that they have to have in place now, and completely off track with the new legislation coming in on tips and service charge. There's lots of
Yeah.
documentation that they need to have in place there as well. So I think there's going to be a policy writer position in hotels and hospitality businesses across the world, not just the UK. I was going to say UK, but across the world. Um, so another question actually here from Nikki. She's saying, can you, and I'm sure she means you, Dorothea, not me, train us to be in-house trainers? So can you impart your knowledge to I guess you can help put policies in place, but yeah, the question is, can you train us to be in-house trainers?
Oh, hello, Nikki. Thanks for that question. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, in-house trainers in what? I'm getting that specific. Will it be overall diversity, equity, inclusion? Will it be looking at, definite protected characteristic, a specific one? But yeah, absolutely, because I think that's what is needed. I'm doing some workshops at the moment, so that involve training and training organisations. So yeah, I can absolutely have a chat about that. Yes.
Brilliant. So that's a definite yes. And I asked the question about how we're doing in hospitality compared to other industry. And I've got a similar one here saying, how important is it for leaders in hospitality to be looking for inspiration from other industries? Are there any specific industries or companies doing great things in this space?
Yeah, there are quite a few. I mean, there are quite a few sort of organisations that are looking at this um, in a really holistic way. I think, companies like Nike are doing really good stuff. ASOS, even though I don't like the, sort of, pile them high, buy them cheap kind of ethos, but they're equity, diversity, inclusion, and is very, very good. There are some bigger companies as well that are looking. I think Warner Brothers is doing, quite a lot of stuff in this space as well. So there are lots of organisations across all industries that are really sort of buying into this. And there's Taylor Westing solicitors who I know are doing really good stuff as well. So there are really good success stories out there, and it's about sort of emulating that, really, I suppose, and getting that and, bringing it into hospitality. And there are people in hospitality doing it. So
Yeah.
it is happening.
I think hospitality is sometimes a victim of its own success, a really massive contributor to the UK economy. But we're made up of these small and medium-sized enterprises, so
Yes.
it's easier for not necessarily easier. I think the bigger companies have more pressure on them to have a public policy than smaller businesses do, and of course we're made up of smaller businesses. So Nikki again, is there a survey that finds out how far management are open and ready?
Oh, no, there isn't, but we can do one. I think that would be interesting to do. How far management are open and ready to look at training or to look at sort of DEI within organisations.
Yeah.
You can do something like that, because I think that if you don't get buy-in from management, or even if it comes from HR but not from further up from the board, it just won't work. It really has to run through the organisation for it to work properly, and for employees to feel safe and to stay. So that's what we want, and also to have that increased revenue from clients and customers. And it's a win-win, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think that's what this is all about, really, isn't it? It's a proper win-win. And I
Yeah.
think the more people that understand that and really welcome that is the faster we'll move along this track, which is good. So I've got a question actually. Will HOSPA be sharing this webinar? We will indeed be sharing it. We do a few little small edits just to make it all smooth at beginning and end. But this particular delegate has said he'd like to share it with his new HR and culture manager, who wasn't able to join the webinar this morning. So that's absolutely fantastic. Yes, we are recording it, and yes, we will be sharing this. So yeah, that's a definite one for you there. So that's good. The other questions are actually all looking to similar things that we've already touched on. Dorothea, is there anything you specifically, while I have a quick read, is there anything specifically you wanted to add before as I have a quick scan of these questions?
Yeah, I think there's been a question on leadership, and I think what I'm going to say really is, how can we be more inclusive? I think people would want to sort of say, to ask that question, but if not, I'm asking it myself. I think, it's about setting communicative, clear, measurable DEI objectives. What do you want to, how do you want to see your organization improve? And I think that's really what it is. What's missing? What would you like to see change? And that involves, creating a vision for diversity that aligns with your core values as a company. And I think that's what it's all about, and a business strategy. So, think about as a company what your core values are, and think about how you would like to see DEI align with that, and how you'd go along on this journey and, sort of help improve. So I think that's one of the things really, and allocate resources to it, because it's, you do need some resources for this,
Yes.
it's not exhaustive, but you do need some. And, looking at personnel really, and making sure there's a genuine commitment, I think, to long-lasting change, because that's where we're at as a society, really. Things are changing quite rapidly, and that can be scary, when the status quo sort of shifts. But, change is as good as a rest, I think. Come along for the ride and
Yeah.
see what you can. Yeah.
I think the UK and the hospitality industry is very open and very diverse already. We need to make sure that it's all happening at the right places, and that the promotions and acceptance is.
Absolutely. It has
I
to
did
come.
hear
Yeah, it has to come. It has to. We need to see a pipeline going through, and hitting that glass ceiling and going through, and that's what's important too, isn't it?
I
Sorry.
did hear a story not so long ago about I forget who it was, so apologies to if they're listening today. But it was, I think, a chain of cafes or smaller restaurants, and they were offering it as an incentive to get the staff in a free tattoo. That was what they're sort of, come work for us and you can have a tattoo. And that really made me smile, because I just thought you would never have had that probably even 10 years ago. It just you wouldn't if you had a tattoo, if it was obvious, you would be discriminated against, I think, so often. Whereas now there was this company out there saying, come and work for us and we'll get you a free tattoo. So thoughts are changing for sure out there in the industry.
Yeah.
We do have another question here. You mentioned the NHS earlier, which I think we all know is very diverse. But how much cross-discipline overlap is there with the nursing field? I don't know
Oh.
if you've even got the knowledge to answer that
No,
question.
I don't know if
No.
I think with if we're looking at hospitality as an industry, and nursing as a profession, absolutely, you serve. You want people to feel their best. You want people to feel happy, and and to heal, and to enjoy. So I think that crossover, and I think the diversity stats, I think within hospitality and nursing may be pretty similar. I've got a feeling for that, that's happening too, because the NHS is the most diverse employer, I think, in Europe, if I'm not mistaken. So those are the little nuggets of information I have about the NHS. But I think that crossover, wanting to serve and wanting to, I think that's the similarities I'll draw from that.
Yes, no, absolutely. So you've given a few sort of quick wins or calls to actions on making sure you've got people focused on it, and I guess documentation policies does play a big part in that. Are there any other sort of specific things that people can just do quickly to get themselves on the path? I would say the obvious one is to give you a call and get you to come and do a little audit and speak them through. But hopefully lots of people want to do that. I'm sure you're going to be rushed off your feet. But are there some quick wins other than those you've already mentioned that people can do to ensure that they are going along the right track and taking advantage of all the benefits of DEI?
I think really is a discussion, find out what, your employees think as well. You could have a pulse survey, you could have an anonymous survey, so that people don't feel pressured to answer and think, oh my goodness, I don't want to say something that, somebody may not agree with. So you can find out sort of temperature gauge within your organization. I think that's one thing that could be done. And also, employees, feeling that they can come together to discuss things. I mean, obviously what's happened over the last week, companies not being silent about things like that, saying, right, this has been awful, my door's open, would you like to come in and have a chat? Would you like to work from home from the time being? All of those sorts of little things that you could probably bring in just to sort of gauge the temperature, because there will be companies that would have, gone in yesterday and have no idea what to do. And that's understandable. But I think the worst thing you can do is be silent, because you don't know if someone's sitting there thinking, oh my goodness, I've had the worst night because this, and this has happened. So it really is about being approachable for that. And yeah, like you say, sort of policies, it's about the transparency and the vulnerability, and saying, I want to learn from this. I want to learn. And I think that's what people do. Once people are open to learning, they will learn stuff. And also, people are looking more at working alongside communities, aren't they? And I think that's another thing, really. In hospitality, we're quite good at doing that. And I think that's about looking at community outreach and, supporting diversity in that way, really. Working in partnership, sort of raising money, working in partnership with charities, all of that is a quick wins, really.
Yeah, and I think that's growing as well. I think, again, years ago you would be serving local food on your menu that's been sourced locally, but I think now there's a lot more people working in their immediate community from outside the doors of their restaurant, hotel, whatever it might be. We've got quite a time for one more question. What about cross-cultural training, i.e. cultures that do not recognize special needs? Again, is that
okay? I think I think that's quite important. I think I know who that question's from. I have a feeling, but I think cross-cultural training's important, especially when we're looking at sort of disability, whether that be an invisible disability or a visible disability, because there are resistance. There is resistance in certain cultures, really. So, and also I think when we're looking at disability, is again, or coming back to that intersectionality, realizing there are disabled people that maybe neurodivergent, and they may come from a certain social class, and there may be women, and they may be of South Asian origin. So it's about looking at those intersecting identities and adjusting and making sure you look at the individual. Really, we need little notes on people within organizations to say, this is what this person's like, and this is how they work well, and this is how we support them. That should be an individual thing, really. Just takes a few minutes to type that up, doesn't it? So HR and senior leaders know what's going on, and also to celebrate as well, celebrate diversity, recognise it, celebrate it. That's what it's about.
That's a great sort of last bit from you. I am going to draw this to an end now because we're getting close to our 45 minutes, but I know there's so much more we could have talked about, Dorothea. Every time we talk, we go way over our allotted time. But I won't do that today for the benefit of all of our people that have tuned in. So I want to thank you all very much for listening and for asking so many great questions as well. There were a couple of unanswered ones there, so we will get back to you. And if you want to get in touch with Dorothea, then you can get in touch with her directly. But if you don't have her details, then please come through me and I'll put you straight on to Dorothea as well. But that was a really interesting 40 or so minutes, Dorothea. And I love the way you're able to share your information, opinions and advice in such a balanced way. I think a lot of people have a lot to learn from people like you. So please do get in touch with me if you want to speak to Dorothea or directly. I think her guidance will be invaluable to most businesses. I can't imagine that there's people who wouldn't benefit somewhere from what you've got to say. Also, please, everyone, do take a look at our website for other upcoming events. We've got a lot scheduled for the last half of this year. We've got many more webinars, and we've got quite a few in-person meetings as well. One's an event with an ex-rugby player, which ticks my boxes. Jason Robinson, who used to play for England. He's at our event with Howden's offices in the city. We've got a Future of Work event, which we're holding at the BT Tower, which probably people know has been sold. So will become a hotel ultimately. So if you want to still get the opportunity to go to the BT Tower, please do apply for a ticket to come to that one. They're all complimentary. There's no charge associated. And then we've got a networking event at Duke's Hotel in London, which is sponsored by Net Affinity, and a balloon event, which is going to be covering all aspects of ESG. So the whole thing, and we're going to have a sort of almost an old-fashioned debate of throwing people out of the balloon if their argument isn't strong enough, and see what the most important thing is. And of course, please register for our annual conference Hotspace, which is on the 14th of November at the Royal Lancaster in London. As I mentioned earlier, we do record all our webinars, and you can find a summary of the key points on hospa.org. And this one should be up by the end of the week. It just depends on how quickly the video team can get on to just sort of do the quick edits. But a big thank you to everyone, especially Dorothea, for taking time to talk to me today. Good luck with your new business, and for everyone listening. And we look forward to seeing everyone again soon. So thank you very much. Thanks, Dorothea.
Thank you
Bye-bye.
very much. Okay, thanks.